I am joined, as ever, by my good friend Adam. Hello, Adam.
How you doing, Andy?
I'm not doing too bad. I have a glass of water, we have a fresh piece of paper, and we have plugged in providing movie, book, YouTube channel, people reviews of all sorts. So, where would you like us to start today?
Well, let's start with a movie. We have Smurfs this week, which you might be tempted to think, how much can there be to say about Smurfs at this late date?
Yeah.
And you might be shockingly surprised how much there is to talk about that would not necessarily be on your radar, because that's certainly the way we encountered this. So this is a reboot of the Smurfs movie. Rihanna is taking over as Smurfette. Not that anybody really cares. I'm sure Katy Perry is still in mourning for having lost this voice role. James Corden is a character called No Name. John Goodman plays Papa Smurf. Nick Offerman. You just go down the list, right? Everybody wants in on these things. It's easy money for everybody. But now I'm impugning people's motivations, which is not really the purpose of this conversation. So this time around, we meet this new Smurf named No Name. And you might think, well, that's a strange name for a Smurf. But, Smurfs usually have some characteristic as an adjective that describes them. So brainy Smurf, hefty Smurf, Papa Smurf. Clearly, the fat shaming people haven't gotten to hefty Smurf just yet. But No Name has taken about 10,000 shots at figuring out what his name is supposed to be, and he can't figure out what his gift is, as Papa Smurf and Smurfette try to help him. But wouldn't you know it, Gargamel shows up. Gargamel, if you are not familiar with the Smurfs cosmology, I'll call it that, is the human wizard who dislikes them immensely. But more than that, and this is where things start to get weird, he needs a magic book that Papa Smurf secretly has in his possession. Well, all right. So, okay, magic book. Not too weird yet. Turns out there are 4 magic books, and they have personalities that can be corrupted to evil. And Papa Smurf is the last keeper of the last book that hasn't been thusly corrupted. But it gets weirder still. There are 3 other evil wizards, and we get basically an entire, I used the word cosmology a minute ago. We get an origin story for the Smurfs and the universe and everything else that starts quite literally with, in the beginning, the universe was perfect. We find out that Smurfette was crafted by Gargamel out of clay to be a decoy to sort of get inside the Smurfs' heads a little bit. And there's this alternate creation story. And I'm like, wow, I don't go into a Smurfs movie expecting to have to deal with anything other than, small, cute blue garden gnomes and a surly wizard. But there's a lot of stuff going on here spiritually if you want to unpack it. And the other issue that parents may have is that Smurf is a quite elastic word that can be any part of speech, including if you want to substitute it in for all sorts of bad words that you don't actually want to say. So I'll just use one and you can go from there. What the Smurf? And if you, like me, probably don't want your children running around saying, what the Smurf? This is not the movie for you, because there's plenty more where that comes from. And so even though there's technically not any profanity, they're playing with it all over the place. And some of those phrases are used in such a way that you know exactly what the bad word was that they didn't say. And they kind of, apparently think parents are going to love this. All of these people must not have children. That's what I have to say about that. So, yeah, there is a lot going on here content-wise that we weren't really expecting. And you've got all kinds of slapstick violence and the specter of Gargamel and his brother Rosamel taking over the universe and whatnot. So Smurfs, more there than you might have thought, which is why Plugged In exists.
I am not surprised at one level that a film does that. I'm a bit surprised they've done that with the Smurf franchise.
Yeah.
In a sense, I mean, the whole wizard thing in that one, they did go quite deep and dark on the last couple of films,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's that's quite a lot that you might want to have to consider if you've got especially younger children who would be
Yeah,
using that without any consideration of the potential what they're actually doing.
exactly. And I think it's just a great reminder that um, we can be surprised by any story, that everything that is created by somebody, there's a worldview, there is intent, there is their point of view on what they think is funny and engaging. And we just need to keep that in mind. And that is why Plugged In exists. And at least as of this hot second, they don't have AI robots who can do our job like this just yet. So we would like to think that we're further down on the AI replacement list, but I guess time will tell.
We will see, but hopefully not. Where else can we go then?
There are a couple new shows out that are pretty interesting. And actually, neither one of them are brand new, but they're both returning from previous seasons. One of those is on NBC and Peacock. It's called The Summer I Turned Pretty. This is the third season. This is based on an immensely popular book series. I mean, hugely influential. And our reviews of those books on our website have more traffic than most of the movies that we have ever reviewed. And so we now have this story that, in a nutshell, is about when she started, she was in high school, but now she's in college. A girl named Belly, who, as the title implies, sort of goes through her coming of age story. And of course, coming of age is mostly defined in terms of romance and sex and sex and sex and more sex. And so, as a cute story, you might think, oh, this is a cute little teen drama. It's not. It pushes all of my butt, just complete garbage, right? Because it basically says life is all about sex and romance and there aren't any consequences. And I think, and it's presented in this saccharine, sunny, fun and engaging kind of way. There's not much that sort of kicks me immediately into angry old man territory. This one gets the job done because I think the messages that it sends young girls are really toxic. And this is a series that's absolutely designed and intended for them. So if your child comes home with The Summer I Turned Pretty, even though that sounds like an innocuous title, or they want to watch the TV show, man, it's time for a redirect on that one.
Oh, fair enough. But exactly what you said, this is why Plugged In exists. Because sometimes you think, oh well, it's just a book, it's just a nice little thing, but there is other stuff, and you do need to be aware of these things because everything that goes on, it is going in one way or
Yeah.
another, and we either absorb it or we reject it. But it's definitely
Yep.
going in one way or another.
That's exactly right. And we live in a culture that encourages us to mindlessly consume everything. Like, the people who are making this stuff don't really want us to spend time thinking critically about it. They want us to watch it, they want us to binge it, and they don't want us to give it a second thought. And that, again, is the reminder that we give, that you've got to be careful because of that, because there's stuff out there that you don't want your kids consuming mindlessly. This definitely qualifies.
I would say nothing should be mindlessly consumed at
Well,
all.
that's true too. I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Right, let's be about from angry old men. Where else can we go tonight?
You know, Shortly, I just edited, I don't think our update is up, on the Isaac Asimov series Foundation. And that, I believe, is on Apple TV. It is an M-rated sci-fi series. There's a ton of content. It has a lot of absolutely Byzantine plot twists. I'm not even going to try to unpack it. It really is intended for adults. So I would say there is some adult content there, top, but you'll want to just be aware of that if you are an Asimov fan. And speaking of science fiction, we have a new Tron video game out, and some of us of a certain tender age remember Tron from the first and second go around. And this is a really gorgeous video game for Nintendo Switch, for PC, PlayStation 5, that takes place in that sort of inside the computer arena. And it has a little bit of a more of a role-playing kind of bent to it, and it's an action adventure game. It's aimed at kids 10 plus, and I would say the biggest issues here are we've got a few references to somebody who has a little bit of a drinking issue. There are a few substitutes for bad words like frag instead of another word that starts with the same letter, but not too much here that you're going to just totally do a facepalm about. And if you or your kids have enjoyed the Tron universe, this might be one you could check out and play together. And we would encourage you to do that, find connection points with your kids and make some memories together and create that relationship.
Amen to that. I do like Tron. We first saw I remember the first one, but we first watched the second film with our lads, and they were, wow, this is so cool. And we watched the first one, and in fairness, I still hold to this. I still think the first one, although some of it's very dated, I still think it holds its own today as a good film.
I think it does too, and I even think it holds its own graphically. I mean, a lot of it looks very primitive by 2025 standards, but man, when it came out, I remember when it came out, it was a mind-blowing movie when it came out. And now, with all the AI stuff and the way that we're interacting with machines, it looks more and more sort of prescient the farther away we get from the original, because increasingly we're having these interactions that sort of blur the distinction between humanity and our, what we're doing online and that sort of thing. So interesting franchise and fun game.
Cool. Time for one more?
We can probably sneak one more in. Let's talk about Old School. And this is a book. Its age range is 8 to 12 years old. It is about a boy named Dexter. Dexter spends time with his grandmother. It's called Old School because the people who live at his grandmother's nursing home are essentially his homeschool group. So they have been teaching him, and Dexter is now making the transition to middle school. And it is a little bit of a rough transition, but he gets coming from a fairly insulated environment and navigating the realm of homeschool. It's got some fun moments. And I think for kids in that age, it's just kind of a fun book. And obviously you want to check out our full review at pluggedin.com on that.
And as with everything else, yes, pluggedin.com. Adam from pluggedin.com, thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Andy.
Here at Pure 24/7 Radio, we have had the privilege of speaking to some amazing people with amazing stories.
Now, what about, I thought I'd go a bit further, what about goat and sheep's milk?
Yeah.
Becoming quite popular. Very similar to cow's milk. So we don't use it in the first year of life, you can afterwards. And their nutrient profiles, how good they are, is pretty similar to cow's milk. Allergenicity, how often do they cause allergies? About the same. They're a bit more expensive sometimes. It's pretty equivalent.
Yeah, we're really excited, especially excited for Josh because it's his first book and he's really passionate with that Gen. Did you say Gen Z or Gen Z? I've heard it said
I don't know. I'm too old. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not in that age category, so we've not got a clue what they're called.
It's a pot boiler. It's a good, exciting popcorn thriller. I didn't think it was anything too special, but I think watching it at home, people will probably enjoy it more than I did going to the cinema to see it. Really good film.
I love it. I walk into a cinema and I turn my phone off. Nobody can get hold of me for a couple of hours. I'm in a completely other world. Every single time I go to the cinema, and for me it's like going to Holz. It's like going to another world and escaping and relaxing, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
If you have missed any of these interviews or would like to hear them again, you can. Simply head over to our catch-up section at www.pure247radio.org. That's www.pure247radio.org.